This conference will now be recorded.
So go through the tasks again if you're not getting time to do that. So we were discussing about this object replication, and yesterday we have seen some issue that was because like we have upgraded from East US to West US, I mean LRS to GRS. So it was upgrading, and for that reason we did not get option to enable this object replication. If you look at this geo replication, now we have got all the data replicated from primary to secondary, and using this feature you can enable like prepare for failover, which is like you can convert primary to secondary, and when you convert it, this storage will become LRS. So you can give a try with that, and let's in your lab also let's enable this feature here. So it means, let's say uh, my storage account is here in East US. Okay, you can see clearly it is in East US. So if I enable this one, if I enable here like geo replication, I can convert this one into West US region. Okay, let me enable this prepare for failover. So your latest synchronization time is, it means whatever the data that it is there in East US region has got replicated to West US, and this is the latest timestamp. Okay, 8:07 p.m. So using this, you can enable like you can have the latest data into the secondary location. So type yes. Now our East US, which is primary, will become West US. It means it will see here. Okay, you can see the error here again. Yesterday I have enabled object replication after a session. Okay, and you can see clearly that object replication, which is like from primary to another storage account, I have enabled data replication. So with this feature enabled, you cannot do this failover. So before we test that failover, let me enable this feature. Like it's already enabled, we'll validate it. Okay, so objects copied from this account from demo storage lab 1 to lab 2. Demo documents is the source container, and destination container is this one. Just give me a second. Are you feeling any disturbance? Because I've just switched on the fan because it's very hot here today. Are you hearing any like disturbance? Air sound?
Yeah, it's okay. No problem.
Okay, that's fine. So I have enabled replication, and let me open a duplicate tab, and here we'll see whether it is there or not. So this is the secondary storage account which we have selected, and you can see all. Okay, where is that? No, still it is not there. Data is not replicated yet. Okay, that's fine. So let me disable this again. I'm not sure why it is. Demo storage account, other accounts. Okay, there are no objects copied from this account. It is just a container replication. It is just a blank replication that did not happen. So I am deleting this replication rule. Here it is, delete the rule, successfully deleted. And I'll go back to geo replication and enable failover. I am just repeating, this is required for enterprise grade business critical applications to enable a failover as part of a DR strategy. So let's see what's going to happen after this failover. You can see here at this stage, our storage account is GRS. After failover, it is going to convert into a different type. Okay, let's see. Yes, failover. Huh. There is also one more feature which is enabled. We have to disable this feature as well by going through data protection, and I have to disable this feature before I go with that option. Now let me try again. We'll see whether it is going to start or not. Right, so failover operation is already in progress. So this will take some time, and before it completes, we will do some other configuration changes. Okay, so
I have one note here.
mhm,
Now we have initiated the failover. Okay. Now
mhm.
in our premises, if internet is down or power outage, something happens, will this run in the background or how it is?
It will run in the background. You have to worry about your
So,
internet because this is everything in Azure. So if your network is slow, still it will run in the backend because everything you are doing here on the portal online. You're not doing anything
yes,
on
yes.
your system.
But we use our network right here, fine.
Uh-huh.
But we are using internet from our side,
Uh,
right? I mean, like from premises
you,
side.
you are using internet just to connect to this browser. That's it. To this
Okay,
portal. That's it.
okay,
The connection
okay,
between your system to the browser will get disconnected, and whatever the
okay,
operations that you are doing within the portal, that will still be there. That will not be affected. Only thing is the connectivity between you and Azure will get disconnected. That's it. Okay.
okay.
Okay. So let it run, and we will see uh, another topic here. Now we have covered this object replication and all these concepts. Lifecycle management. So if you want to, let's say you have your data from last couple of years on this storage account. So if it keeps on increasing, the cost of your storage account will also get increased, right? Let's say you created your storage account today, and that's going to remain for next 10 years. And after 10 years, if you still wanted to have all the data, you have to manually select and keep it, or you have to delete whatever it's not required. But when you enable this lifecycle management, whenever the data gets older and where you're going to define the rules, and that will get deleted using this lifecycle management. So let's see what we can achieve with this feature. Add a rule. Huh. The specified resources. Okay, since we are working on this failover, so this storage account is not available for time being. Let me go back to another storage account here. Yeah, lifecycle management, add a rule, and here you can see, let's say my rule 1. So do you want to apply rule to all the blobs in your storage account, or only to some blobs. It means only for some files. So I'm going to apply a rule to all the blobs in my storage account. And what kind of blobs? So I think still I have to discuss this one. What is blob and append blob? We'll see that. So I've selected blob, and I will do this one as well. And do you want to delete the snapshots and versions also? Enable all the options and go to next. And here you can see that if base blobs were modified more than, I'm just making like a condition, 30 days ago. If the data was modified 30 days ago, then delete the blob, or this is the only condition that you can achieve. Okay, you can enable this delete the blob feature. So next, this is for blobs, and next is snapshots. Okay, because we have selected all the options here, and that's the reason we are getting in the next step you'll get all the other options. If you don't check, you'll not get. Okay, so I'm checking all these options next, and you can add this, let's say 365 days. Okay, if any of the files which are there on that storage account are modified or uploaded more than 365 days ago, then we have to delete, just to save the cost of my storage account. And the same thing here for snapshot as well. Okay, so generally snapshots will be stored like as per the organization policies. They'll be keeping it for 30 days, 100 days, 90 days, depends on their business criticality. So let me make it as 30 days. And here also you can enable this feature. Next, and versions. So if you have multiple versions in your system, in your storage account, like multiple files with different versions, if the old version which is like more than 30 days, then it's going to get deleted. Okay, you can enable this feature as well. Click on add, and lifecycle management is enabled. So for time being, if you want to disable this lifecycle management, you can enable this one. I mean, you can just check this box, and here you have a feature called disable. Okay, so you can go with this feature also. Okay, so this is very useful if you have loads of data that is getting stored in Azure storage account. You can enable this lifecycle management feature. Right now, I'm going to delete this rule, and the next option we have here is Azure Search. So in order to understand this, we need to understand some other components, which is like cognitive skills, like cognitive search, and the remaining options within this Azure Search. So it is a different service which we are going to discuss at later stages. But just to give a heads up, just like our normal, let's say if you are searching anything on the Google, right? When just type a keyword and it will display a number of web pages, number of links that is related to your keyword. Same thing that you can enable Azure Search on top of your storage account. Okay, Azure Search is a different service which we are going to integrate it to your storage account to search the data based on the type of data that you have in your storage. Let's say you have got thousands of files and thousands of documents in your file share and containers. So you can enable this Azure Search, and based on that search, as and when you type the search using a Azure Search service, you are going to get all the data which is related to your keyword. But this is not up to the mark, I would say, because if you look at Azure Search, right, this one, cognitive search. So like it will be using artificial intelligence. You have to create a search service, and you have to integrate this one to storage account. For now, I'm not doing this one because it needs some other concepts to cover, and then we will see. Okay, And yeah, before we go to next step, let me come back to this failover. This is still in progress. Okay, still it is in progress, and let's come back to geo application. Yeah, it is in progress. Right. So the settings here, you can see configuration. We have already covered some of the concepts here. I think we have covered almost all the concepts except this Azure Active Directory, which we are going to see at next level. Okay. And data lake generation 2 upgrade. So within the storage, we have got LRS, GRS, and things like that. You might have heard ADLS storage. It means this is like Azure Data Lake storage, where if you have the files which is large in size, if you wanted to use such kind of files in Azure, then it is recommended to use Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 1 or Generation 2. So people will call it as ADLS, mainly like a database team. They will be using all these configurations to transact large files from Azure storage, which will because this ADLS will have better IOPS when you compare it with any other normal storage account. Okay, so you can see here, let's say if you wanted to use SQL database or Azure Synapse, these are different types of database solutions available in Azure. So you can go with all these options in order to consider ADLS. So how to create it is just a simple option like normal storage account. You have to just enable this feature. Let me show you. Remaining all the settings are like normal storage account only. The only difference is while creating a storage account, you have to just select one option. Let me show you. Okay, so I'm going with standard and let's go with LRS and see here this feature. We did not cover this option. So even when we were trying to create storage account, we have skipped all these features because same settings can be configured after the creation of storage account, even ADLS as well. But it is recommended when you're creating any new type of storage account, you have to just enable this option. Okay, data lake storage generation 2, mainly for, you might have heard that big data, right? So Hadoop and all like that. So they will be using this big data uh, like data lake storage solutions. It is also to store the data, but only thing is they'll be using large files. Like one file will be having like 1 GB, 10 GB like that. So it is uh, beneficial for them to transact without having any issues. Okay, so now, and if you want, yeah, this is wherever you see preview. So most of the services still Microsoft is developing. It means they are adding additional features to the existing solutions. So wherever you see a preview, it means it is not meant for production. It is just for testing. You can use it for non-production and it is as it is in preview mode. Okay, so we're not going to use all this, and even you can see that file shares. So if you enable this one, large file share storage accounts can be configured. So just like normal file share, if you have large files to be shared, then you can create this large file shares, which is using this feature. So when you use this large file shares, this is available only in LRS. Okay, you will not be able to convert into GRS. Okay, so it depends on your requirements again. So networking, once we cover networks, then we will be able to understand. Data protection, we have discussed already these concepts, like in our previous storage account, uh, which we have created already. Okay. Encryption, we have discussed this one as well. Microsoft Manager keys and Customer Manager keys. So remember these shortcuts, MMK and CMK. Okay. We have discussed this concept as well in our previous storage accounts properties. Okay. So coming back to this, data lake storage is a concept to have your large files stored in your storage account for better performance requirements. Okay. So now going back to previous storage account, and you can see that the notification account failover successful, which means failover is completed. So my primary location, which was there like east US, should have been now west US, and this GRS will be converted to LRS. So now it should be LRS. Let me refresh this page. See here from the overview page, you can see this demo storage lab 1. Earlier it was in uh, East US, the resource group, and now the storage account primary location is West US, and GRS has been converted to LRS. So when you do any failover, it will be converted to LRS. Again, if you wanted to make it as GRS, you have to go with this configuration and do this setup. So this time West US will be primary and East US will be secondary. Okay. So you have to manage your replication settings based on your business needs. Okay. Any question here in this failover, because it has got converted from GRS to LRS. So let me know if you have got any questions here at this point. Right. So let's move on. And we've got CORDS. So cross origin resource sharing. So this feature is also, I would say, having a very limited functionality. Let's say like CORS is nothing but cross origin resource sharing. Let's say you have got a partner. Let's say you're working for Wipro and the TCS is a partner to Wipro, and TCS guys wants to access data from this storage account directly using their own domain. Then we can use this resource sharing. However, this is only allowed to enable HTTP, okay, which is not secure. And you can see clearly web application running under one domain to access resources in another domain. This will be useful. However, because of security concerns, this is not allowed to use because of HTTP feature. Okay, so we don't have much here in this section also to test, and we'll move on to the next point here. Advisor recommendations. So as we know, Microsoft will give you the recommendations based on your uh, existing configuration. Okay, if you have any security issues, and we have discussed there are 5 types of recommendations that Microsoft will provide, starting from like cost recommendations, security recommendations, operational recommendations, and also like this configuration recommendations. Everything will be available under advisor feature. So at this stage, there are no recommendations here in this storage account. If you wanted to see, just to recap, you can search for advisor, which is a generic feature where you can see cost, security, reliability, operational excellence, performance recommendations. Okay, so you can use this feature to see the recommendations based on your configuration. Okay, there are 5 types of recommendations that you can get. And going back to lab 1, endpoints. So as we know, for each and every storage service under storage account, you will have an extension. Let's say for blob service, the extension is blob.co.windows.net, and this is your storage account name. So it is nothing but a URL for your storage account. However, you're not going to use this URL for your access. It is just to have some sort of deployments using storage account services once you have access enabled on your system. Okay, so likewise, we have got URL for file service, and we have got queue service URL. And for table service, you can see that table.co.windows.net is the extension. The prefix is your storage account name. And the same thing here, queue.co.windows.net for queue service. And data lake storage, you can see that dfs.co.windows.net, and static website web.co.windows.net. This means for each and every service which are there under the storage account, you will have different types of URLs. If you are using file service, you have to use this type of URLs. So where you have to use, just like our shared access signature, where you are going to generate URLs, it is the same procedure for the code deployments or for any of the data connections that application teams want. You're going to give this URL to them. Okay, it will be through the tools only. They'll not be able to access directly using this URL from the website or from the browser, right? So now this is just endpoint details. There is a thing to configure in this section. Okay, so the next option we have here is locks. So as usual, you can lock your resources like read only and delete, and you can apply. But for the users, like whatever that I've given the usernames to log into subscription, it is all having contributor access. Okay, right. So the next, before we go to next step, give me a second. Right. Okay. So the monitoring, we have seen the alerts configuration, how to create alerts, and even here also you can set alerts. Whatever that we have discussed under the resource group, it is specific to resource group and all the resources under the resource group. Okay. So if you go to create alerts, you can have all the conditions, right? ET latency, and you can filter whether it is activity log based or metrics. Metrics in the sense, let me address this topic before we come back to this. So here we have got insights. In insights, this we have skipped at resource group level because we didn't have the data at that point of time. So insights means this will give you the data about your storage account, like availability of your storage. So is it having any downtime in the backend? No. You can see here 100%. And successful server latency. So it is taking 7.12 milliseconds for me to access this storage account, and it is also calculating between the data center. Okay, 7.25 milliseconds. Okay, likewise, you can see some graphs as well. So this will be mainly for monitoring teams. So we're not going to use much on this. However, just to track if there are any issues, and if you wanted to see how much data it is there on your storage account, because let's say we have uploaded different files and different configuration documents into this containers and file shares. Now, if you want to see what is the capacity of all that files that you have uploaded, it is difficult to go and calculate one by one by logging into the storage account. However, using this insights feature, which will be using artificial intelligence in the backend, it will give you all the data related to your storage account. Okay, so you can see the used capacity within the graph. So the storage account capacity that I have used is 71 MB at this point of time. And in file storage, this is the average. It is 119.67. Table capacity, it is 4.16. It means in each and every storage service under the storage account, be it be blob capacity or file storage or queue, it will give you the exact size of your storage service. Okay, so and availability. So based on again, like what is the availability of your blob service? It is 100% available, and there is no deviation here. You can see the one straight line which is 100%. And in this graph also you can see, and this blue color is showing like this one, and the red color is here. Okay, which is very small in size, and 40 bytes, 4.16 MB, which is this line. Okay, you have colors also on this graph, and if someone like is asking to share this one, you can share this one also to them just by taking a screenshot, or you can also pin this one to dashboard. We will see that dashboards how to create and all. This is mainly for monitoring purposes. Okay, now if you wanted to see failures exclusively on the storage account, okay, so you can see there are total transactions 502 and success is 501. Client and other errors, it means whenever you're trying to log into storage account, if you see any login error, this is uh, going to capture, it will show that. Okay, so if you wanted to deep dive into this error information, you can log in and you can get some information here using this. Yeah, so client and other error. Okay, so where is that? Yeah, and you're going to get by going through log errors, show logs, and you can see there is no log data available for this. It is just showing, and this data is not stored anywhere. Okay, if you enable these logs to store in the storage account itself, then it will show us. Okay, and similarly, we also have the performance end to end versus server latency. Okay, so the latency, like it is like 7 milliseconds, it means which is super fast. Okay, it is milliseconds. Okay, so to list out this blob service, it is taking 16 milliseconds, and for file storage it is 28 milliseconds. Okay, so milliseconds is even less than 1 second. It is that fast in Azure data centers. Okay, so now availability, as we have seen in the overview page, the same feature is available in this section again to go through step by step. Like for each and every service, you can have exclusive data. Every time it is 100%. Sometimes data center and everything is fine, but still your storage account might show uh, any like availability issues. You know, yesterday and even today also there was an issue with Amazon Web Services. There was a downtime, right? So that downtime is very crucial for the data centers, like for the cloud environments to track and to investigate and to fix as early as possible. Otherwise, it's going to impact customers' business. Okay, so that kind of feature is also there in Azure. We will see that in a bit. And this is exclusively for storage account availability, and that too for your storage account. Now, if you go to capacity, and you can see each like total capacity of your storage account. So each and every storage account will have 500 terabytes of total capacity, out of which we have used 75.5 MB, right? You should be very careful. You can create multiple storage accounts, but based on the data that you store, you're going to get a bill for it. Okay, so that's the benefit of this insights, and that's the reason it is under monitoring. It will be useful mainly for monitoring teams to track all of these activities, right? Any question here? There are some features here, workbooks. You can customize this graphs and the data also, but it needs some other additional concepts to cover. Okay, so let's not configure all that now, as we know only storage account at this stage. Okay, so any question here? Right, now let's go to metrics. So this insights feature will be there under each and every resource, whatever we are going to work as part of our sessions, and you will see the data related to that specific service. Now, metrics. This is a bit old feature, but still you can track that. Metrics are nothing but the properties out of your storage account. Let's say you wanted to see the data of availability. You can filter it out here and it will display this graph. So if you don't want to see in this format, this is a line chart, okay? If you wanted to see something on this area chart, this is area chart, it will display a full area covered in blue. If you wanted to see bar chart, you might have heard all these charts earlier, and this is a bar chart, okay? And if you wanted to see scatter chart, which is like in dotted lines, dotted symbols, and grid format is something like in the form of table. Okay, average aggregation, it is 100% available. So let me come back to our line chart. You have to filter here in this section what you wanted to see on this graph. Okay, so I wanted to see account. Let's say if you select account here, it will display metrics for the accounts. If I choose blob here, it will display metrics only for blobs. So where you can filter exclusively for your needs. So let's say blob capacity, and you can get always average of all the data of your storage account blobs. And this is like 71.2 MB. If you want to add additional metric, You can click on this, and let's say this is the scope. By default it is selected, and I want this time file storage, file capacity. Now you can see within one graph you can see both the data. Instead of having all these filters, Microsoft has introduced this insights feature. Earlier we were having only metrics, but still this feature is there. If you wanted to filter, you can do that, and you can get advanced options under this insights. Okay, so navigate all these options, and if you want to create alerts for your filters, there is a feature here, new alert rule. You can go for this new alert rule, and by default all the conditions will be already there because you have selected, where is that, let it be, you have selected blob capacity and file capacity on this filter. Let's say I want only this blob capacity, and I'm going to create alert only for this one. Click on this, and I will see condition. If you wanted to see this condition, click on this. It will display whenever the blob capacity is greater than the threshold value. You have to give the value here. Let's say whenever the blob capacity reaches to, I will use gigabytes, not bytes and kilobytes and megabytes. Okay, whenever the blob capacity reaches to 100 GB, you can see here, whatever I type here, it's going to change in this section. Okay, so let's say 200 GB. I want to get alert. So every 24 hours, I need to get this alert. So it is going to calculate the data for 24 hours, and it will evaluate every 5 minutes, and then I'm going to get alert. I'm not going to create any alert. So let's say if you wanted to create, done, condition is successful. The next step that you have to do is action group. You know how to create action group. Action group is nothing but a team who is going to check or who is going to work on this specific alert. Okay, so for that reason we have to create this action groups. Otherwise no one will be able to receive an email, or no one will be able to work on that issue if it is not trackable. Okay, so instead of going to this alert rules, you can also come back to this alert section exclusively and create alerts, create action groups, and everything can be processed by just filtering the logs from this section as well. Okay, you have the metrics, so you can filter it out here and enable the conditions, create the alerts. Okay, this is a duty of monitoring team. Just in case if you are joining in an organization, uh, and if you are not sure about the job description, or even if they say something in the job description and after joining, if they put you in monitoring team, like for time being you should be in a position to work on this. Okay, so for that you have to practice, try to understand these concepts as well. Okay, and workbooks, will be looking at next level event, this diagnostic settings and logs. These are the two things which we need to understand. Few more concepts before we conclude this one, right? And next option we have here is monitoring classic. So we're not going to use this classic metrics. It means uh, till last year I think only this feature was there, and after that Microsoft has introduced this one. As like I told you, we were calling, like they were having a old portal, we were calling it as classic portal. So still this classic alerts are there for the customers whoever was on version 1 portal, the old portal, they were still using this monitoring metrics. And if you want to configure anything on this classic metrics, let's see here, this will retire on August 31st 2023. So till then you can see the data, and you will not be able to configure anything under this because this is going to retire and you have to use this feature. So wherever you don't see any classic or preview, you can go for it. Since it is showing as classic, still the data is visible, but you cannot use this one for any of your newly deployed storage accounts. Okay, so it is like needless to cover again, just for your understanding, diagnosis settings and usage, everywhere it is showing like August 31st 2023. Okay, if any of the customers who are already there on this section, they have to move all these metrics and or they have to move all their alerts into this and new monitoring settings. Okay, so that is one thing. And uh, we have got these options, resource health, and I'm going to cover it in next session. Tomorrow we will be closing storage account, and I have to drop for like drop off early today. Let me stop this one.